How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Boylei Hobby Time. This week I am expanding my Wild Western universe again, this time with a Stagecoach and a big monster. I got this 1/72 scale Stagecoach model at the hobby store. Came with a little Frenchman and some robbers. It also came with the little lady from Buster Scruggs. I had a cool transition planned for that footage right there, but it didn't work out, so I just put everything on the table and started building. The model itself was not difficult to put together. A few of the pieces snapped together, which made it a lot easier, and then I used some plastic cement for the rest. The wheels also rolled freely, which was kind of cool. And I decided I wanted to replace the guy with his hands in the air with someone a little bit more formidable. So I used this guy with a rifle instead. I liked the horses how they were, but I felt like this Stagecoach needed some upgrades. So I broke into my bits box, found some pieces that I wanted to add, and I started the customization. First thing I did was to remove the luggage from the roof. Didn't want that to get in the way of the new roof that I was going to be adding. Drilled some holes in the sides and ran some styrene rods all the way through. These would be the anchor points for the frame that will hold up the new roof. Originally, I was going to use this piece of sprue as the frame for the top section, but opted for this basswood instead. Drilled some holes and I cut that to length. Made two of those and I mounted them on either side. I glued that plastic roof back in place. I cut a slightly larger hole because I wanted the cowboys to be able to climb up and down from the coach to the roof via a little ladder. I used some basswood that I cut into smaller strips. I left them a little bit uneven because I wanted to add some character. I marked out where I needed to glue them together, making sure to leave a spot for that roof access, and then I glued all those in place. I did go back over with a steel wire brush and added a little bit of grain to all of the wood surfaces. And I added some mechanical features, including that piece of sprue, which kind of looks like a nice little roll bar. I glued the top on and the little ladder, which I made out of some cross-stitching mesh. I kind of wanted this to look like a ship, like the deck of a ship, and this back section to kind of look like the cabin. So I used some more basswood and I glued those together. Initially it was going to be 4 layers tall. I removed the bottom one because I thought the sizing was a little bit better. Then I added some other details, including these tanks from a flamethrower that I got from a set of World War II weapons, and some guitar string. I used some more guitar string, connecting it from one of the tanks, wrapping it around the side and connecting it somewhere else to make it look like it served some kind of a purpose. Then I glued some more slats to the very top and added some greeblies on the sides. I also added another ladder, an antenna, and a little solar panel. And to fend off giant monsters on the plains, I added a machine gun with a little ammo box and a chain of bullets. To prevent unnecessary workplace injuries, I added some railings that I made out of styrene rods and some more basswood. I added the luggage back in place along with a few more guitar strings and a little control box radio thing that I made out of some brass pieces. Added a few more little details and then I glued all of the figures in place, and the Stagecoach was complete. The Stagecoach then raced away to prime itself, Came back looking nice and fresh. Then it was time to move on to the layout of the base. I peeled the paper off of both sides of a piece of foam board. I glued that down to a piece of wood that was the same size. Then I moved on to the terrain mixture. If you want to know how I make this mixture, go ahead and watch any of my other videos. Once that was all mixed up, I smeared it onto the foam. I've watched a lot of Great British Baking Show, so I think that paid off here. I then marked the width of the wheels, and I sculpted some tire tracks, or wooden wheel tracks, down the length of the base. And then I left that to dry, and it was time to move on to the painting. I don't really know much about horse colorways, but I painted them all brown with some black hair and a little white mark on their face. Kind of just a generic cowboy horse look. That's what I was going for. For the Stagecoach, I was planning on doing a variety of colors, but just kind of got stuck on brown. I'd reach a new spot and I'd say, hey, you know what would look really good here? Brown. I'd paint something metal and then I'd say, hey, you know what kind of wash I should use? Brown. I really like the color brown. I like the way it looks. Even the tan, it's a very brown tan. More brown. I did add some green, and I was really close to making the clothing on these cowboys brown. Decided to go with yellow and red instead. Dusted them up with some dry brushing and some washes, and the painting was done. After the base was dry, I used some watered down glue that I brushed around, and I sprinkled on some sand. I did this over a piece of paper so that I could collect the excess and reuse it. Then I sprayed it with a gray primer. I gave it some black and brown washes, and then I dry brushed brown over the top, making sure to not go as heavily on those tire marks, which made a nice effect. Then I added some shrubs and some flocking. Nothing too crazy, just enough to communicate not a desert. I painted the sides with black 3.0, and I glued the horse and the stagecoach down. I made some gun smoke out of a little piece of cotton, and then I made some little reins. After all of that was glued together, it was time to move on to the monster. For the base of the monster, I used a model from Hero Forge in the pose that I was looking for, and then I added the buffalo head that I sculpted myself, as well as a lot of that fur that you see up on the top. I then printed out the model. I had a few prints fail, including this one, which just randomly stopped at 88%, which was a bummer. But I did get one that worked, so I painted it. Primed it with a zenithal highlight. I wanted this to look like a bison. The idea behind this is that it is a big monster that wanders the plains. So I gave it a nice warm brown patch up on the top, just like a bison has. Dry brushed on some lighter colors, painted in those details, like the eyes and the horns. And once that was done, I glued it in place and called it good. that is it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you to all of my patrons. You guys are all great. If any of the rest of you are interested in joining the Discord, link to the Patreon will be below. We talk about hobby stuff and our current projects. It's a lot of fun. Otherwise, have a great week, everyone. I will see you next time.